right, welcome to this week's Culture Couch Live. Em, how are you?
G'day, Rosie, Marco.
Mark?
Hey, Em. Hey, Rosie. Great to be back.
All going well?
Yes, things are great. It's cold here. It's wet in Toronto, but we've hit the peak of we've started spring, so I'm happy again. Hockey playoffs are coming up, and I'm a Leafs fan, and I'm hoping that the Leafs win the first round, lose the second round, so we get a bit of an in to speak to them and start being their their culture coaches in 2020, 24, 25. That's my goal.
You sound like a fair weather supporter, you know. No? Guys, I've got a question this week, which is really interesting. It probably talks to everything we do, to be honest. Peter's written in and just sort of said he's about to start his first leadership role.
Okay.
All right. And he's a regular follower, it says on the Culture Cast Live, but he really wants to know. I thought we might break it up a little bit. He wanted to know, just give us some general tips. But I thought, and why don't we start, and both of you, so let's break down his leadership. He starts, I don't know exactly, but let's say he starts on Monday.
Yeah.
What's his first week? What would you say to him from a leadership point of view? Let's look at his first week, and then we'll go a bit more medium term. So, Em, I'll start with you.
Yeah. The first thing that came to mind is go have a meet everyone one-on-one. Take them out for a coffee or a lunch, get to know them. No, nothing other than get to know them. Like that's, I think, the most important thing. I remember back in the Aussie X days, that was the first thing I did. As soon as I knew a new team member, it was just, how are you? And just get to know them, ask a lot of questions, do a lot of listening, and really suspend, like do a discovery tour or like a listening tour. One of my clients here calls it a listening tour. I thought that was
cool. That's a good term, a listening tour. Yeah.
And I was just seeing the other day, believe it or not, Chanel, is it a perfume, beauty products? Yeah. For senior management, the first 3 months, and I'm pretty sure it's the first 3 months, a new leader cannot speak in a meeting.
Right. Okay.
First 3 months. A month's a pretty long time. Imagine the first 3 months.
Yeah.
And I think they review the meeting and they discuss how the meeting went, but they can't add anything to the meeting. I thought that was really cool. So when this question came up, the first thing, spend your week listening and learning about each individual. And if work comes up, 100% dive into it. But really, I think the purpose of the week is to get to know each human, full stop sort of thing.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, the relationship building is so underrated, as we know. Yeah. Mark, off the back of that, how much strategy does he have to talk during that first week? Like, what do you think? Put yourself in his shoes. And you've done this before anyway, like as a CEO, leader of a company. Like, I agree with them. Build some relationships, go on a listening tour. I like that term as well. But what about strategy? What do you think his staff are expecting from him purely from a strategic point of view?
Yeah, well, I'll tell you what they're expecting, and I'll tell you what they shouldn't do. So it's probably the same thing.
Yeah,
so often what happens is you forget when you're a leader that one day you're a teammate. And so you build up these own expectations of yourself of what being a leader needs to be. And so you come in and you start telling everyone what you're going to do.
Yeah.
People don't want to hear from what you're going to do. What people want to do, and this is key for any leadership's a place of service. They want to know what you're going to do for them. And I love Em's point about listening. It's build relationships, take time to understand your people, because every single one of them is different. And when you start to look at them from a leadership point of view, as opposed to a teammate, you'll look at them a little bit differently. So it's really important to get an idea of who your people are and what they need, but then start asking them questions. What do they need? So it's not even really strategy at all. It's really getting a blueprint for what your people need from you as a leader in that first week.
Yeah, it's a great point. I'll give you my example, because when I took over at Sydney Swans, I'd already had the relationship. So it's funny. I think the players then were looking for a bit more strategy, a bit more direction. And this is no criticism of Rodney Eade. Rodney had been there for seven and a half years. So they and they knew me. So I reckon I covered that relationship piece. That's a really good point. But when I went to Melbourne, I didn't know anyone.
Yeah.
So apart from this initial, town hall to sort of say, look, this is what you can expect, the next 3 months were really about building relationships and obviously implementing game plan. But so much was about that relationship piece. So Em, we've had our first week of relationships, and we've done a nice discovery and a nice listening tour. Okay, and I reckon we're about, I reckon I made an assessment, we're about a 5 or 6 out of 10, probably something where I'd expected from a culture point of view. What's next for me? What do I have to do next?
I reckon I would conduct a review with the team. I'd get them together for maybe a good half a day. Probably in the afternoon, let them do the work in the morning, 1 o'clock till 4:30, then go out for dinner afterwards. And the review is play the role. So big believer that modern day leaders are coaches and coaches are facilitators.
Yeah.
So because we now live in a world where information is not controlled by the business, information is just out there.
Yeah.
Right. Like we could literally probably find anyone's salary online. Right now, pre-2004 internet, all information was held by leadership. So leadership was problem solving and leadership was decision making.
Yeah.
Now that information is out of control, and it's even worse out of control with AI now, leadership has turned into how do I share decision making? Or how do I even just give it up? And how do I create an environment for the team to problem solve? So the role of leader has completely done a backflip all in the space of about the last 15 to 20 years since we've moved to this online world where information is now, it's at everyone's fingertips, right?
Yeah.
So I think that then you play the role of the facilitator in your own team, get your team together, put them in small groups and say, what are we doing well? What's working? What can we improve? And suggestions for improvement, and really play the role of a facilitator. And what does a facilitator do? Asks questions, not conducts the conversation, but sort of like plays the conductor and says, okay, speak up and make sure everyone's voice is heard, and listen from the team's voice on what they think we can do better together, and then facilitate some decisions and actions off the back of it, and then make that change based off listening to the team. Because Mark, you're exactly right. One of the biggest things I've seen, this happened to me recently, actually, and I had to help a leader. He came to me and said, I want you to help me galvanize my vision for what I want the team to do.
Yeah.
And I said, mate, it's the wrong question.
Yeah.
Wrong question. The question is, you got to go and figure out what they need you to do for them. He's like, oh.
Yep.
So I did the session and we flipped it. And now he's actually basically doing kind of what we just talked about and conducting review with his group and as one team. So it's one voice, decisions together. So I'd use the next phase to do a review with the team. Yeah.
Right. Mark, I'm going to ask you a curly one. So you found out after week 1, you've been sold a lemon. So you've gone through, so Peter's been sold a lemon. He's gone through, and I don't know this for a fact. I'm just, because I know
Sorry,
Peter,
he's been on hypotheticals lately. It's been his thing.
No, this is definitely a hypothetical. But Peter's potentially gone through the interview process. Oh, Peter, we want you. You've got a great team. Yeah, everything's going well. We really look after our people. We live and breathe our values and culture and culture. So in your discovery tour on the first week, you're actually a 2 out of 10.
Yeah, right.
You've realised that is absolute garbage. Yeah, no one's happy with their role. No one's happy with the exec team. No one's happy with leadership. No one gets looked after. It's every man for himself. So Peter's, apart from scratching his head on the weekend and choking on his oat milk latte down at Brighton, he's trying to work out, okay, where do I go from here? This is a bit of a punch in the gut for me.
Good question. And it's not that curly because I think it's probably representative of, to be honest, most workplaces. If you're not selling the dream to a potential future leader, you're probably not doing the right job as a senior leader anyway. So, and I think you're going to, people, leaders, and for those leaders out there, when you get into a new leadership role, you'll start to uncover things that are a surprise, and that's okay because you're also starting to look at things from a lens of your world and the things that you can see as opposed to someone else that they mightn't have been able to have seen. So for me, it's setting expectations and role clarity. And that's probably even a point back from even what Em was talking about around review. Review is an amazing opportunity to get a real sense check of where everyone's at. But even that even the setting expectations exercise and getting role clarity. What does everyone genuinely think they're meant to be doing? and having that conversation, because you'll start to find some things that people don't realize that they should be doing or are doing things that they shouldn't be doing. Set expectations off the back of role clarity. So what are we actually meant to be doing, and how do we expect each other to be, communicating, to be performing, to be delivering on whatever work it is. But sit down and actually have that expectation setting exercise. And it's a really good opportunity, again, to ask questions, facilitate conversation, and just listen and observe the behavior of all your people in your team. Because if you can do that, then you'll get a really, really good set of what's going on. And to your point, Ruzi, if we're at a 2 out of 10, you can probably get to a 5 really quickly by just getting some of those expectations and role clarity really, really good.
I think the other thing too that I've learned, you guys know this, but I'd never done the profiling when I was coaching. I think that sort of unlocks a lot of the problems too. So how quickly, my recommendation for Peter would be, and I get both your thoughts, how quickly should I be doing some profiling with my team and getting performance by design in, or a company to come in and talk about, different learning styles, people are arguing, et cetera, because it really does unlock a lot of problems within the organizations, doesn't it?
Yeah. I think first and foremost, if Peter's new to the company, find out if they've got anything in place. They might already have insights, they might already have DISC or whatever. So first and foremost, find out what is in place, because as part of his process, he might have done one of the tools. So if he has, there's a fair chance. So then find who's got all the reports and all the data, and get that together, and facilitate a conversation around that if he can. And also in the one-on-ones, so if you get to know everyone for the first week, and in the third or fourth week, in your next series of one-on-ones, get your profile out, get their profile out, and just walk through it and have a bit of fun saying, look, this is me. Here's the things you can rely on me for. Here's my gaps, and I need your help. That's actually what you can actually see Alexandra and my reports covered in all these highlighters: green, amber, red. Like green, this is going to be me all the time, Amber, but red, AP, I need your help, right? And so we had that conversation probably third day working together. So that accelerated our relationship pretty quick. So she knows my stress points, I know hers, and it's been wonderful to be able to work through that. So I think find out if the company's got the tool. If not, I would straight away. Insights, we prefer Insights purely because the colors are memorable and the reporting's really good. But whatever there is, they're all pretty decent today, but definitely get in that as early as possible for sure.
So Mark, Peter's taken our advice, and he's a pretty friendly guy. So he's a nice high green blue like myself. So he's done a pretty good job, but we've got through the first month. How do we now systemize it? So Peter's now sort of become part of the culture, hasn't he? He's come in, he's acted his way in, as we know most people do. Now, how does he make change? He wants to make a little bit of change. He wants to systemize it. He got a good team. Things are going well, but now he's more familiar. Now the hard work, I suspect, starts. What's the advice for Peter now? And I'll ask both of you the same question.
Ultimately, you've got to be having an environment for open conversations, and how you build that and how you foster that will happen in different ways. But at the end of the day, if you've set the expectations, you've done a review, so you understand your people, what they need. You've done some profiling, so you really understand who the individuals are and what their needs are. We understand communication. Really, we've got to get to a point where we have regular, open and honest conversation. If you talk about systemization, Ruzi, it's like, okay, well, how are we meeting? And I think that's a big one as well. If you're in that sort of 3 to 4 week period, or 5 or 6, is starting to really pull apart the meetings. How often are we meeting? Are we meeting with intention? What's the purpose of all these meetings? And really have a look at the diary. So I think you can start to free up a lot of people's time, but also use the time that you have with each other a lot more valuable. And I think that's probably the next stage as a leader to get into. And then ultimately, just by looking at your meetings, you're starting to systemize through a whole lot of intentional activities anyway.
Yeah, great. Em, do you want to add in?
I think I'd just probably take the meeting part a little bit further. I mean, I think in layman's terms, as the system in business is the meeting cadence. It's the meeting cadence with the review, a regular review process. Because, if the it's really all they can be, right? Because there's some other things, the way we do work can be part of the system. But as far as the human dynamics and connection part, it's the meeting cadence. And so, I mean, I remember working with an exec team here that met maybe a quarterly, maybe quarterly they were.
Yeah.
And it was a maybe. It's a 1,500 person company, 7 execs, maybe quarterly. So we did the kickoff day. I'll never forget this. And I said at the end of the second half of the second day, I said, so what do you reckon our meeting cadence should be moving forward? Oh, probably at least weekly, you know. So they've gone from this to that real quick. And then we set them up with coffee catch-ups weekly. So they did a round robin and they just do a 30-minute coffee catch-up once a week, every week. And over the course of the 2 months, they had a one-on-one coffee with each team member twice. So it accelerated them getting to know each other, right? Yeah. So the cadence is the first thing, but I think the second part is learn to facilitate your meetings. So come to the meeting thinking, right, team, what are the questions I want answered consistently from the team? And then have the team share one after the other their answers. And then as the leader, speak last, facilitate the meeting, catch the good, coach the gaps, but keep the questions of the meeting consistent. So you're having the same conversations, but just in a different context because the context changed because time moves on. But the biggest threat, again, if the leader comes in going, I want my team to be like this, then the chances are they'll come in and run meetings very directively and say, right, have you done this for me? Have you done that for me? And that's the opposite of what modern day leadership is. That's what it used to be. But if you do that now, you get disengagement and then you lose the team. 3 months later, the team don't speak up in meetings. Well, it's because you're running them the wrong way. You got to reverse the process. So that would be my thing. Learn to facilitate meetings by asking the right questions and then being the last person to speak.
It's funny. The whole football industry works around meetings and it's worked so systematically. We used to set up our whole week. Monday morning, I know other coaches did it differently, but I said to our guys, if you want to watch the game, you can, but we're all watching it together. And we come in at 8 o'clock and it took us 4.5 hours, but then that 4.5 hours saved me so much time as a head coach because I knew exactly what every assistant had seen, the same as what I'd seen. They knew what I wanted. I knew what they wanted. And then everyone was able to do their work during the week. But you're right. If we don't have a system of productive meetings, it's so easy to go pear-shaped. And the other one is, which is really simple, and I'll probably finish off with this, just reward good behavior and challenge bad behavior. You know, like I think sometimes we overcomplicate culture. Now, the challenging is a little bit more, but again, it gets back to your comment, Mark, about just create a really good, inclusive environment, mix it up with your check-ins, your meetings, reward good behavior. Your comment, Emma, little and often conversations, I love that. You know, don't wait for the 3-month review, the 6-month review, the 12-month review. Don't kick the can down the road. Have the conversation, but set up a system, reward good behavior, challenge poor behavior. And if you're not sure, just ask the question. I think that's a really simple way. So look, hopefully Peter's got some really good tips to get through that. And clearly, Peter, you can always employ performance by design to
that's right.
come and help. That was probably the number one tip. I thought one of you was going to say that, but that's okay. No problems. But no, really good tips, guys.
Fantastic.
Good luck. Yeah, good luck, Peter. I mean, your first leadership role, you're always a bit nervous, but
be kind to yourself too. That's the big thing.
Yeah.
It's pretty easy to put down yourself because you think that
be authentic. Yeah, be yourself and use some of those tips, mate. Good luck, Peter. Thanks, Sam. Thanks, Mark.
Thanks, Rosie. Good on you, Marco.
Thanks, Rosie. Thanks, Sam. Have a good one.
We'll see you next week, everyone, on the Culture Cast Live. Thank you.